What's going on, boxing fans? Julian Williams here at the distance. I got a prediction video for you guys tonight. This one is Guillermo Rigondeaux versus Ricardo Cordoba. This matchup takes place November 13th on the Pacquiao versus Margarito undercard in Dallas, Texas. It's going to be for the WBA Super Bantamweight Championship, 122 pounds. Puts together, I believe, the champion, who is Cordoba, and against Rigondeaux. I believe that Cordoba is the interim champion. I'm not too sure. I didn't really looking much into this matchup. I'm just looking at the matchup at hand. I'm just going to predict from there. But anyway, overall, it's a very good matchup. You got Ricardo Cordoba, a man who has quite a bit of experience. Has a victory over Celestino Caballero, one of the best fighters pound for pound, fighting at 100, who's now fighting at 130 pounds, and has unified championships at the 122 pound weight division years prior, about 2 years ago. And Cordoba also was in a very good matchup against Bernard Dunn, one of the best matchups last year, and was in a close matchup against another man who's a champion, Punsawa Kratendangen, something around those lines. I'm sorry if I don't know how to pronounce the last name, but this is an opponent who has a lot of experience on his hand, has faced some top-level opposition in that division. So this is going to be very good for Rigondeaux, because Rigondeaux is perhaps one of the best, is probably perhaps one of the best amateurs of all time. 7-time Cuban amateur champion, 2-time national champion. I believe he's an Olympic gold medalist as well. This is his second year as a professional fighter. I've watched every single one of his matchups since he became a pro, and I'm actually impressed. And even though he's about 29 years of age, he's about 28, 29 years of age, he's pretty much a veteran in boxing. He has had over 250 amateur fights, and if you look at his demeanor and his poise in the ring, you could tell that he has some years on him. And overall, he's better than a lot of people who's been fighting pro that are on the top level, has been fighting pro for the last 5 years that own the title. He's a lot better than a lot of these fighters. I was asked a couple times to make comparisons between him and Yuri Ortiz Gamboa. With him, he's more of a patient fighter. He's laid back. He doesn't necessarily, he doesn't really throw unless he sees an opening. He's more of a thinking boxer. So that's really the comparison. That's just what I could say in comparison between both fighters. I never really, looked in and analyzed from that, but that's pretty much what I can say right now about both fighters. But onto this matchup, you have two southpaws. You have one southpaw that's a counterpuncher, and a southpaw that, a taller, rangier southpaw that throws a lot of punches. And this is kind of a good matchup for a counterpuncher, because with a counterpuncher, with a puncher who throws a lot, that means there's going to be a lot of openings to look for against an opponent who throws a lot, like Cordoba. First off, with Ricardo Cordoba in this matchup, Cordoba has to stay relaxed in this matchup. If you look at Cordoba matchups, Cordoba doesn't necessarily stay relaxed. He doesn't, it seems as if sometimes he has a little bit of apprehension when he throws, and sometimes he throws too much. He throws too many punches, more punches than he really needs to throw. Sometimes he'll throw like about three, 4 punches at a time, and instead of sticking behind the jab to set up something. In this specific matchup, he does have to stay calm. He has to pretty much, I think that he has to fight with a certain temperament. He wants to be aggressive, he wants to get points, but he wants to avoid the counter shots. Rigondeaux, counters well with the left hook, whether it's to the body and whether it's up top. Counters very well with the straight left hand, and these are punches that he wants to avoid. And in this match, I think he wants Rigondeaux to use his right hand a lot more, so I think he does need to move a lot more to Rigondeaux's right side to avoid the power of the left hand that he possesses, in that hand. I think that jabbing a lot and being very controlled in this matchup. I think that Cordoba doesn't fight too much with control. He fights, he doesn't necessarily fight wild, but he works a lot. He has a pretty good work rate in the first few rounds of the matchup, but then he kind of tires off. And I think that maybe throwing so much in the early goings of the matchup, I think that could be it. Just throwing so many punches in the early goings of the matchup, and also being the range of fighters. Stay on the outside with the jab, occasional left hand, occasional left hook. He throws the left hook quite well inside, and also he does throw the right hook pretty well off the jab. And not throwing as much, will not result in as many counter punches, as many countering opportunities. And he is an inch taller, but he's Ranger, and he's kind of punching. I think he's punching down a little bit in this matchup. And also, take into consideration that Rigondeaux is elusive, has a very wide base that he stands at, and can kind of crouch down a little bit. So he probably will be punching downward a little bit in the matchup. But I think that if he could stay controlled and go more to the right side of Rigondeaux, use his jab a lot, pretty much keep the punches straight. So pretty much the counters will be more over. More. I'll say over the top, where he's gonna have to go over the top and kind of jump in a little more, and that could actually lead to a counter inside for Cordoba. So I think pretty much it's staying controlled, maintaining a pretty good pace for the matchup for Cordoba, to where he's not going to get tired, and where he's not going to wear down, maintaining a very decent attack to where he's not getting counted as much, will pretty much win the matchup. So that's Cordoba's way to win the matchup. Guillermo Rigondeaux, calm fighter, very calm temperament, can wait, counters well, moves well in the ring. Pretty much he does. He can move a lot. He can be mobile. He can be stationary, and he can be aggressive. So it shows the interchangeability of his style. So in this matchup, like I said, with an opponent that throws, that throws a lot and is quite rangier, he's gonna be. I think he will be standing in the pocket quite a bit in this matchup and looking for openings. And he doesn't really throw punches unless he sees the openings. I think that there's going to be a lot of openings to the body. I think counter left hook to the body is going to be a punch to throw, especially with a fighter who does tire out in the later rounds. Counter left hook to the body. Also, another punch that will be there should be the left hook. A punch that, I take that back to right hook, excuse me. The right hook, because if you look at Cordoba fights and you see a fighter that gets close to him, he kind of just wavers around the inside, just kind of stands there, and I think a punch that'll be there is the right hook. He doesn't really protect himself very well from right hooks, whether they be looping or quite short. Also, another punch another thing to look for is jab to the body with the left hook up top. Those are going to be punches. I think also, just pretty much just counter, make him wary of throwing his punches, putting the punches together very well. I think that will pretty much be Rigondeaux's key to victory. If he can pretty much just counter well, if he can avoid the Cordoba jab from the outside and find his shots up top and put his shots together very well, and actually just walk him down and try to and win points by throwing to the body or throwing up top, Rigondeaux can take this matchup. So what I think about this matchup, who I think is going to win, Cordoba's the type of fighter who pretty much, if you look at his matchups, he is quite one-dimensional. He punches. He stands up. He punches. He can create angles. He can create angles, but he doesn't throw from those angles. If he was the type of fighter that created the angles and he threw from the angles and like pretty much created angles and created space to get Rigondeaux off balance, I would say that Cordoba has, pretty much has a really good chance in this matchup. If he was able to do that, if he can create angles and create space and jab and throw punches from those angles. But I think that Cordoba, he does move a lot and punch. And with a fighter that moves a lot and punches, I think he's going to be open to counters. Counters inside, or counters outside, or counters to the body. So with the countless counters that are going to be available for Rigondeaux, and I just think that Rigondeaux should take this matchup by a unanimous decision. So anyway, guys, that was The Distance. Thanks for watching. Peace.